The phone buzzed against the wooden nightstand, and my stomach tightened before I even reached for it. A single message flashed on the screen, glowing like a cruel spotlight in the dark. My heart skipped as I read words that didn't belong to me. Emily said, "You make me feel alive in ways he never could." My breath caught in my throat. My partner David was still asleep beside me, his arm draped over my waist as if nothing in the world was wrong. The silence in the room grew unbearable, louder than any scream. I stared at him, trying to match the man I loved with the words burning on my phone. My chest ached, but anger pulsed hotter with every second. I replayed every excuse he had given me, every late night at the office, every distracted look when I asked simple questions. My mind screamed betrayal. My lips trembled as I whispered to myself, "How could you?" The room blurred with tears I refused to let fall. The night that once felt safe and warm now suffocated me with a truth I couldn't ignore. Everything had changed in a single vibration, and I knew nothing would ever be the same again. Morning light crept through the blinds, mocking me with its calm glow. I hadn't slept, replaying that single message over and over like a knife twisting deeper. David stretched lazily, kissed my forehead and said, "You were restless last night." I forced a smile, my chest hollow, words dying on my tongue. The scent of coffee brewing from the kitchen made me nauseous. He walked away, humming as if he wasn't the villain of my story. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the crumpled sheets, remembering every promise he had made. My hands trembled, torn between screaming the truth or choking on silence. I whispered to myself, why does the world still look the same when everything is broken? The kitchen smelled of fresh coffee and toasted bread, but the air carried poison. David poured his mug with casual ease, his voice light as he asked, "Big day at work?" I nodded, swallowing bitterness instead of words. His smile was effortless, practiced, almost convincing. My chest burned with rage, but my voice betrayed me, soft and small. I studied him across the table, searching for cracks in his performance. Every detail, every gesture, screamed of betrayal only I could see. The world hadn't shifted for him, but mine had shattered completely. I excused myself to the bathroom, my reflection staring back like a stranger. My eyes were swollen, my lips pressed into a thin line. I whispered, "You can't fall apart now." The message replayed in my mind, each word tearing into me. My chest rose and fell rapidly, hands gripping the counter until my knuckles turned pale. I wanted to scream, but fear of shattering the fragile facade held me in place. Betrayal had hollowed me, yet I couldn't summon the strength to expose it. Not yet. The sound of David's laughter echoed from the living room, slicing through me like glass. I stepped out of the bathroom, every movement heavy. He scrolled through his phone, chuckling at something unseen, and looked up at me with a grin. "You okay?" he asked, his voice carrying false concern. I nodded stiffly, my mind replaying the betrayal hiding in his pocket. My heart whispered for confrontation, but my fear silenced it. Instead, I lowered myself into a chair, feeling the invisible wall grow taller between us. The office buzzed with the usual chatter, but I felt like a ghost drifting through corridors. My coworkers laughed about weekend stories, yet I couldn't hear anything beyond the echo of betrayal. I sat at my desk, staring at the computer screen that refused to come into focus. Sarah leaned over and said, "Row night?" I forced a nod, not daring to reveal the storm inside. Every email blurred into a meaningless smear. The truth I carried pressed down like an iron weight, and my hands shook as I typed. I caught my reflection in the dark monitor. Hollow eyes, pale skin, a stranger. David's lies echoed louder with every tick of the office clock. My chest tightened as I whispered, "Hold it together, no one can know yet." Sarah placed a coffee cup on my desk and smiled gently, her eyes scanning my face. She said, "You don't have to pretend with me." My throat tightened, words trapped behind fear. I wanted to scream the truth, but trust felt like shattered glass. Instead, I whispered, "I'm just tired." Sarah nodded, though suspicion lingered in her gaze. The warmth of the cup did little to ease the chill crawling through me. My secret poisoned every interaction, every forced smile. The more I tried to act normal, the more alien I felt in my own skin. By lunchtime, I escaped the office noise and sat outside on a weathered bench. The city moved around me, but I was frozen in thought. My phone buzzed again and I stared at it, terrified of what I might see. No new messages from David, yet I felt like his lies lived inside every vibration. The air smelled of exhaust and faint rain, but I couldn't breathe deeply. My chest ached as I whispered, "Why can't I just confront him?" Fear was stronger than fury, and doubt chained me tighter than truth. I scrolled through old photos of us, each one burning as a lie. Later that evening I walked into our home, the familiar scent of dinner in the air. David stood in the kitchen, chopping vegetables as if nothing were wrong. He looked up with a smile and said, "Hey, how was work?" The casual warmth in his voice cut me deeper than anger ever could. I wanted to slam the phone in his face, demand answers, destroy the mask he wore so easily. Instead, I forced a weak smile and replied, "Busy." My hands shook as I set down my bag. Every sound, the knife against the cutting board, the sizzle from the pan, echoed like thunder in my head. We sat across from each other at dinner, the clink of silverware unbearably loud. David asked about my day, his voice smooth, rehearsed, and I nodded through every lie. The food tasted like ash on my tongue. My eyes studied him carefully, searching for the cracks in his performance, but he remained composed, charming, untouchable. My chest screamed to break the silence, but my lips betrayed me with a soft smile. Inside, I was unraveling, threads of trust snapping one by one. The meal ended in silence, heavier than words could ever be. The following week felt like walking through fog, each moment weighed down by suspicion. David's phone buzzed often, and he would slip into another room with a casual excuse. My chest clenched with every step he took away from me. One evening I asked, "Who keeps calling you so late?" His eyes flickered before he smiled smoothly and said, "Work deadlines, nothing to worry about." The lie coated his voice like sugar, but I could taste the bitterness beneath it. I forced a laugh, but inside, fury burned hotter. Every vibration from his pocket was a dagger. Every glance he avoided was confirmation. I whispered silently, "You think I can't see through you, but I do." At night I lay beside David, staring at the ceiling while his steady breathing mocked me. His arm brushed mine, but instead of warmth, I felt nothing but cold distance. I whispered to myself, "You don't love me the way you used to." He stirred slightly, then turned away, pulling the blanket tighter around him. That simple movement screamed more than words ever could. My chest tightened as memories of our laughter and long talks flickered painfully. Now silence ruled, heavy and suffocating. I wanted to shake him awake, demand answers, but fear rooted me to the mattress. Days blurred as small details piled up into undeniable truths. David left his phone face down more often, his laughter on calls ending abruptly when I entered the room. He claimed to work late, but his shirt carried perfume that wasn't mine. My fingers trembled when I picked it up from the laundry basket, the scent sharp and foreign. I whispered, "She's everywhere on you." I pressed the fabric to my face, choking on the bitter proof. My stomach churned as rage and grief collided inside me. His excuses echoed in my head, flimsy walls collapsing under the weight of truth. One evening, Sarah called and said softly, "I saw David near the cafe downtown yesterday, but he wasn't alone." My breath froze as I gripped the phone tighter. Who was he with? I asked, though my voice already cracked with dread. Sarah hesitated, then whispered, "I think it was someone familiar, someone from your past." The words crashed over me like ice. My ex. My pulse thundered in my ears. The betrayal grew sharper, more intimate, almost unbearable. My chest caved as I whispered, "It can't be." But deep down, I already knew. The walls of our home felt like they were closing in. Every photo frame mocked me, every smile in them now, a cruel reminder of lies. David laughed in the living room, scrolling through his phone, while I stood in the hallway trembling. The truth clawed at me, demanding release, but fear strangled my voice. I whispered to myself, "You're living with a stranger." My reflection in the glass frame beside me stared back, hollow and broken. The silence pressed in like thunder, leaving me gasping for air. I knew confrontation was coming. I just didn't know if I was ready. The cafe sat on the corner of Main Street, its windows glowing warmly against the cold night. My heart raced as I pushed the door open. David sat near the back, his head bent low, his laugh soft. Across from him was the face I never thought I would see again. Mark. 1. My ex? His smile mirrored David's, their hands brushing across the table as if they belonged there. My chest hollowed, air vanishing from my lungs. The sound of clinking cups and quiet chatter blurred. Rage and disbelief roared inside me. "Not him," I whispered, my voice breaking. My world shattered. I couldn't move. My feet rooted to the floor as David leaned in, whispering something that made Mark laugh softly. My chest burned, my stomach churned. Every memory of Mark came flooding back. His betrayal years ago, the pain I thought I had buried. And now he was here, stealing the last shred of trust I had left. David glanced at him the way he used to look at me. My lips trembled as I whispered, "Both of you, you've destroyed me." The sound of my heartbeat drowned the cafe's soft music. I stumbled back, unseen, my soul ripped open. I stumbled outside into the freezing night air, gasping as if I had been underwater too long. The streetlights blurred through my tears, and every step felt heavy with betrayal. My hands shook violently, my phone slipping from my grip. My voice cracked as I whispered, "The two people I trusted most." A taxi honked as it sped past, the noise jolting me, but I couldn't feel the world around me. The betrayal was all I could see. The weight of it broke something inside me. I collapsed onto a bench, sobbing silently as the cold wrapped its claws around me. Sarah's voice trembled over the phone as I confessed everything. She whispered, "Emily, you can't let them break you like this." My chest shook with sobs as I replied, "It's them, Sarah. David and Mark. Both of them." Silence stretched, heavy and unbearable. Finally she said, "Then you know the truth. You have to decide what comes next." Her words echoed in the hollow of my chest. Rage flickered in me, sharp and consuming, fighting the despair. I wiped my tears, whispering, "They'll regret this." For the first time, fury felt stronger than fear. I stood before the mirror, staring at the broken reflection that no longer felt like me. Betrayal etched deep into my skin, yet behind the cracks I saw something harder, colder. My lips whispered, "You thought I wouldn't find out." The words sounded foreign, powerful. My pulse throbbed as adrenaline surged. Tonight, the confrontation would come. Tonight, lies would burn under truth. I smoothed my hair back, straightened my shoulders, and inhaled deeply. For the first time in days, my tears had stopped. What replaced them was fire. The living room felt like a stage, every piece of furniture waiting for the confrontation. David walked in casually, tossing his phone onto the couch. I stood frozen, the rage boiling so close to the surface I could taste it. He looked at me with a faint smile and said, "You look serious. What's wrong?" My voice cracked, but it carried the weight of truth. "Mark," I whispered, the name slicing the air like a blade. His smile faltered, his eyes flickered, and the silence thickened. My chest thundered, every beat louder than his lies. David stammered, "It's not what you think." His voice cracked under the weight of his own lie. I laughed bitterly, the sound sharp and foreign in my own ears. "Not what I think," I spat. "I saw you, with him." His face paled, his lips parted, but no words followed. The silence screamed louder than anything he could say. Rage coursed through me, breaking through the chains of denial. My voice shook, but it was fire now. You betrayed me with the one person who already destroyed me once. How could you? His body stiffened, shame etched across his face. He tried to speak, his words stumbling. I didn't mean, but I cut him off. My voice cracked like thunder. Don't you dare excuse this. Tears burned down my cheeks, but fury kept me steady. His shoulders slumped, his eyes darted away, searching for escape. My voice dropped into a whisper, sharper than any scream. You made me believe in you. You let me build my life around lies. His silence was my answer. The man I loved stood there, guilty, small, broken by the truth he could no longer hide. I stepped closer, each word shaking the walls. You didn't just cheat, you chose him. David's jaw tightened, but he couldn't meet my eyes. My fists clenched, rage and despair colliding. I hissed. You broke me with the one person I swore I'd never let near me again. His silence was confirmation, heavier than denial. My chest heaved as the dam finally shattered. My scream tore through the house, raw, unfiltered. He flinched, guilt staining his face, but he stayed silent. The betrayal echoed in the air, louder than any words he could have spoken. The storm broke in silence. I collapsed onto the couch, trembling, the weight of betrayal crushing me. David stood still, his face pale, his body sagging as if the truth had drained him. I whispered, "You've destroyed everything." My voice shook, but it carried finality. He reached a hand out, but I recoiled. The space between us now a chasm no bridge could close. My tears finally fell, hot and endless. The life I thought I had was gone, burned away by lies. All that remained was the ruin of love and the ashes of trust. The next morning arrived like a cruel trick. Sunlight sliced through the blinds, filling the room with golden warmth that mocked the storm inside me. David sat at the table, his hands wrapped around a coffee mug, his face pale and eyes hollow from a sleepless night. I stood in the doorway, suitcase open on the bed behind me, heart pounding as if every beat was a reminder that something had ended. He looked up, lips parting as if to explain, but I raised my hand, stopping him. "Don't," I said, my voice trembling yet sharper than it had ever been. His mouth closed, jaw tightening, shame flickering across his face. My chest ached, but I felt something shifting. The fire that had burned wild last night was no longer rage but resolve. I began folding clothes carefully, methodically, as if the act itself gave me control over what little I had left. Every shirt, every pair of jeans felt heavier than fabric. They were reminders of nights spent believing in his lies. He whispered, "Please, Emily," his voice cracking with desperation. For a moment, the echo of who he used to be flickered in my heart, but it was quickly smothered by the weight of betrayal. My hands trembled only slightly as I placed another blouse into the suitcase. Each fold was a goodbye. Each breath was a step further from the life I had built on sand. He tried again, "We can fix this," but I didn't look up. The air between us was a graveyard of promises. The sound of the zipper sliding shut was louder than any scream. It cut through the silence of the house, final and merciless. David appeared in the doorway, his shadow stretching across the hall, his face tight with fear. "You can't just leave," he said, his voice breaking, laced with desperation. I gripped the handle of the suitcase, the weight pressing into my palm, grounding me. For the first time since this nightmare began, I met his eyes. They were red, hollow, pleading, and for a flicker of a second, I almost saw the man I had once loved. But then the truth screamed louder than his face ever could. "You already made sure of that," I whispered, my voice sharp but breaking in places. He flinched as if the words were a slap, his lips parting but no sound escaping. His silence spoke louder than excuses, louder than apologies. I shifted the suitcase closer to me, my chest rising and falling with uneven breaths. He took a step forward, his voice softer this time. "Emily, please, don't do this." But I couldn't unhear the lies, couldn't unsee the betrayal. I had drowned too long in his ocean of deceit, and this moment was the surface I had fought to reach. I stood straighter, shoulders squaring against his collapse. For the first time in days, I felt the faintest taste of freedom on my tongue. The front door creaked open, and the sound seemed to echo louder than it ever had before. I stepped into the street, suitcase wheels rattling against the cracked pavement. The morning air rushed into my lungs, crisp and cutting, each breath sharper than glass, but cleaner than anything I had felt in days. The world outside looked unchanged. Cars rushed past, horns blared, children tugged their parents' hands, but for me, everything was different. The chain that had bound me inside that house had finally snapped. My heart still ached, heavy with betrayal, but it no longer caged me. I whispered under my breath, "I'm free." The words felt foreign, fragile, but real. My hands shook as I tightened my grip on the handle, each step carrying me farther from the ruins behind me. A man in a suit brushed past me, muttering under his breath, but I barely noticed. I scrolled past a family laughing together on the sidewalk, their joy stabbing me but reminding me of what I deserved. My phone buzzed once in my pocket, David's name flashing across the screen. I stared at it until the vibration stopped, my chest tightening but refusing to bend. I pressed forward, whispering again, "I'll heal, even if it takes years." Sarah's door swung open before I could knock a third time. Her eyes widened at the sight of me, suitcase in hand, tears streaking down my cheeks. "Oh God, Emily," she whispered, pulling me inside without hesitation. The moment her arms wrapped around me, I broke. My chest shook violently as sobs tore through me, and I clung to her like I was drowning, and she was the only air left. She whispered softly, "You're safe now. I've got you." Her apartment smelled of coffee and lavender, warm and alive, so different from the cold silence I had left behind. My voice cracked, words barely forming. It hurt so much, I confessed, every syllable trembling. Sarah's grip tightened, her voice steady and strong. "It will," she said, "but you'll survive it. You're stronger than you know." My tears soaked her shoulder, but her words planted something in me, a seed of belief I hadn't felt in days. For the first time since everything had collapsed, I didn't feel alone in the wreckage. That night, Sarah's couch became my sanctuary. A blanket cocooned me as the city hummed faintly beyond the window, headlights flickering like restless stars. My chest still ached, raw and hollow, but the suffocating weight that had haunted me was gone. I whispered into the quiet, "I don't know who I am without him." The words were terrifying, but they were mine. Tears spilled again, but they carried a strange relief, like poison finally leaving my body. I closed my eyes, letting exhaustion pull me under, but my dreams didn't replay the betrayal this time. They were blank, empty, still. And that emptiness didn't scare me. It soothed me. For the first time in weeks, silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like possibility. The ruins of love still smoldered in my chest, but deep beneath the ashes something faint flickered. The fragile spark of a beginning. Weeks later, the wounds still ached, but I had learned how to walk with them. I sat at a cafe table, staring out the window at people passing by. My phone buzzed once, David's name flashing across the screen. My heart skipped, but I pressed decline without hesitation. The weight of his lies no longer owned me. I sipped my coffee, the bitterness grounding me. For the first time, I didn't feel like a ghost of myself. I whispered, "You don't get to break me anymore." The world outside kept moving, and so did I. I walked through the park, the crunch of leaves beneath my shoes. Children laughed in the distance, their joy piercing my thoughts. The world hadn't ended, though mine had changed forever. The ache of betrayal lingered, but so did the strength I had found in surviving it. I whispered to myself, "I'm still here." My chest tightened, but instead of despair, there was pride. I had endured, and I was still standing. For the first time, I believed I could keep moving forward. One evening, I passed the cafe where I had first seen them. My steps slowed, but I didn't stop. The memory stabbed, but it didn't break me this time. I whispered, "You didn't win." My chest tightened, but the fire inside steadied me. For so long, the betrayal had defined me, but now it was just part of my story. I had survived the worst. The night air was cool, cleansing, each breath a step further away from the ruins they left me in. For the first time, the future didn't scare me. Sarah and I sat together on her balcony, city lights sparkling below. She handed me a glass of wine and said, "You're stronger than you think." I smiled faintly, my chest warm with gratitude. "I wouldn't have made it without you," I whispered. She shook her head. "No, Emily, you saved yourself." Her words sank deep, heavier than any comfort. She was right. The survival, the strength, the choice to keep moving, it had been mine. My heart ached, but it beat steady. That was enough. The final night, I stood before the mirror, staring at the reflection that no longer seemed broken. My scars were still there, but they no longer defined me. My lips parted, whispering the words that had haunted me since the beginning. "You didn't think I'd ever find out, did you?" The silence that followed felt powerful, not hollow. I turned away, ready to step into a future I had claimed for myself. Heartbreak lingered, but it no longer owned me. For the first time, I felt whole in my survival.